Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everyone. It's Wednesday night. We're back again. The Bo and Joe Show with my two favorite gentlemen, Bodine Sanders and Adrian Ferris. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Great. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing well.
Hey,
know
Joe.
Bodine's now, but how are you?
I'm hanging in there. A little low energy tonight, but that's okay.
So
we got our partner to help us out.
I know. I was going to say, I don't know if I can envision a low energy Bodine Sanders. It's going to be a new experience for us all.
Well, listen, I'll share the joke with our audience that I borrowed from a good friend. I got more shots in me than Ben Simmons has taken all season. So I'm gonna try to work my way through it.
It's a good joke, but not a good predicament to be in.
Yeah. But I wanted to get it all done and over with.
This is saying man up.
I manned up big time. I sure did. The pharmacist looked at me and said, "You want what?" I'm like, "My doctor said I could do it, so let's just get it done. I don't want to come back. Just get it all done." So they poked me 4 times.
I'm actually shocked that they let you do it.
My doc said it could. I said, okay.
I was actually surprised they let you do that.
Yep, no problem. They said, yeah. They said, most people want to come back. I'm like, I don't want to come back. I want to get it done. Why waste time? Let's go. So they poked me. All right. So I'm paying for it.
Well, let's see what you got.
All right. I'm trying my hotspot now. We're back on. So I may have some technical difficulties tonight. All right, so let's jump right in. What are we talking about? Let's start with John Gruden and his lawsuit against the NFL. That's pretty big news. What do you think about it? I mean, it's kind of sour grapes or sore loser? What are your thoughts?
Well, matter of fact, Ferris texted me, or we had a brief text back and forth about it. And I think I said something to the effect of, let sleeping dogs lie. Just leave it alone. Why keep it going? Why keep the issue hot? You know what I mean? Just leave it alone. So I don't know why he wants to do it. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? It's not like they're rumors or innuendo. They have fact, they have paper, right? They have the emails. Just leave it alone. Let it go away. Right, eh?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it has to do with whether certain things were supposed to be revealed and ended up being revealed. I didn't get a chance to really take a deep look into it, but you're right. It's out there. It's physical. It's something that everybody can see. He can't deny it. So it's one of those things where you make a decision and you have to live with your decision. Obviously, I guess you can file a suit in reference to it, but I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he has a shot, quite honestly.
Why spend the money to hire lawyers to do that, right? Dude, take the money that the lawyers that he hired probably make like $5,000 an hour. right?
Yeah, but they don't spend the money until there's no money spent until they win. In most cases, like that, right?
Oh,
So,
no. If these type of lawyers, no, they're looking for their money up front, a big time retainer, because you're fighting the 800-pound gorilla. You're fighting City Hall, right? You're fighting the NFL. He's not suing the Raiders because that would really make him look bad. He's fighting City Hall. Dude, leave it alone. Use that money to go on vacation, buy a boat, go fishing, just disappear. I mean, really, go. I tell you what he can do. Go get Kyrie Irving, and then book yourself a seat on one of those Jeff Bezos flights. Go up in space for about 1 minute. See that the Earth is round and not flat. Come back, and then maybe Kyrie Irving will get back on the basketball court. I mean, really, spend the money wisely. Spending it to fight City Hall, no, he ain't gonna win. It's a waste of time.
I see why he's doing it. It says that it has to do in reference to Daniel Snyder and the Washington Redskins, and the fact that they imposed minimal punishment to Daniel Snyder, including a $10 million fine, but he claims they didn't conduct a genuine investigation and purposely leaked the emails to the press instead of conducting that investigation. So, I don't know.
Hey, no one's going to jail for leaking documents, right? No one's going to get if anything, a slap on the wrist, right? But he is, what do you call it? A casualty of war. He's a casualty based on the investigation that was happening with Washington. And we said this right, Joe? We said that it's not over yet, right?
Yeah.
Who knows at the end of the season what's going to happen, right? Because what happened with him was a dumpster fire. It was so flammable. They're like, whoa, we definitely, I'm just thinking out loud. We definitely don't need this to happen again. So let's calm down. Let's protect the shield until the end of the season. And then let's go to the off season and start letting the chips fall where they may, because that was explosive. So, listen, remember, somebody knows where the bodies are buried.
I think the bigger issue for me is in regard to, obviously there's certainly some character flaws there, but what about the lack of self-awareness? If you were to take a look at yourself, in the light of that investigation, wouldn't you say to yourself, hey, I made some transgressions here. How do I turn my life around? How do I make this a positive influence? But instead of doing that, he's justifying it. He's filing a lawsuit. Now he's the victim. And I think that just speaks to a much larger arrogance and such a disrespect towards those victims. It just, to me, it's, why wouldn't you take yourself out of the spotlight? Now you're thrusting yourself into the spotlight, into this pseudo relevance, and really damaging your character so much more so than the original investigation, in my opinion.
It's all about pride and ego, right?
And see,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bo.
Now, I was just going to say, see, this is what diversity is all about. I absolutely appreciate Joe's opinion and her perspective, because I didn't even think of that in my little rant, and she's right. Come on. This is ridiculous. He's not even thinking about the core of the issue of the lawsuit, where 40 or plus more women filed a grievance regarding how they were treated. Come on, dude. All you got was fired or resigned. Nobody grabbed your gluteus maximus when you weren't looking, right? Nobody took pictures of you in your office changing clothes. Come on. And again, I like John Gruden. Come on. enough's enough. Simmer down.
Agreed. And think about it. I mean, he's not hurting for monetary compensation. He's set for life. If he, so just let it go. Let it go.
He's more than set for life, right? Adrian, how much money was his contract? 100 mil? How much
million.
How much did he get? Is there anything out there in terms of what he was paid after he resigned? Did they pay him all his money or what?
I didn't see that, but he was getting paid $10 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in his fourth year? Was he in his fourth year?
Yeah, I think so.
So
they probably paid him. So he had 60 million left. They probably paid him half of that, which is 30, to resign. Boom. So he's still. I mean, come on.
Right. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. And let's transition to a great. Well, I don't want to say a great story because it's not a great story, but I don't know if you hear about the high school quarterback from New Jersey who scored 8 touchdowns in a game. His mother was waging a 14-year battle with breast cancer. Died before the game. His senior year. He went out in the next game. And he scored 8 touchdowns. He said he felt his mother's presence there, an unprecedented win for the team, an unprecedented victory, and the stands went crazy. So much so that ESPN Sports tweeted about it. That's how memorable the event was. And his hero is Tom Brady. And Tom Brady responded to this tweet and said to him, I'm so proud of you. The young man's name is Alex Brown. So I thought that was a really inspirational story. I saw the interview with him after the game, and he said, I heard my mother's voice. She told me to stay strong and have hope and be proud of yourself. And he said, and that's what I went out and did. And he said, and I did it for her. So what a great story. And, obviously he lost his mother. So what a great component of that story.
Yeah, that's a great human interest story. Now, is he a quarterback? Did he run for all 8? Did he throw 4, run 4? I mean, what did he? So
he had 8. He threw for 6, rushed for 2.
Okay.
The first touchdown was a 52-yard run. And that's where he mentioned crossing the goal line, going down to the knee, pointing up and realizing his mom was there with him at that point. And then just proceeded to have the game of his life. I mean, his mother passed away the day before the game.
Wow.
And this was a playoff game. So it's not even a scenario where it's a regular season game, can be playing anybody. This was the first round of the New Jersey State parochial. Well, they used to call them parochial. I forget what they call it now, but it's non-public playoffs. So big game.
Big game.
Yeah, that's your stopping grounds.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I said parochial by mistake. When I was growing up, it was parochial A, parochial B. Now it's called non-public. So
now are you familiar with that town in New Jersey?
Red Bank, yeah. I didn't grow up there, no, but it's Red Bank Catholic is the high school, and he's committed to go to Bucknell.
Oh, really? So yeah. Villanova's going to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. So I'm gonna shout out San. I'm gonna get her name right and say, Tim said he heard about it. It was amazing.
Tim Senior, that's my Irish twin's husband. He's a big sports fanatic and military guy. Was in the Navy. So, what did Justin say? I missed that one.
Well, wrong one. I wanted to show you this. Tim Fielder, he's back, and he's saying nothing good happens in Jersey.
Hey, settle down over there, Tim. Settle down now.
Tim, you're going to get Adrian all riled up. You better calm down.
Hey, Tim. Don't have any Sopranos here, and don't have any of the Soprano guys hearing that statement. Oh, no.
And then we have Beverly White. Hello, Bo. I guess this is a great way to connect. Now I see I need to get a number. Yay, New Jersey. So, Tim, you're in trouble here tonight. You better calm down.
Beverly is also related. She is Tim Senior. Tim Senior's cousin. So look like the whole lots of fam are tuning in tonight.
Oh boy, Tim's fighting words tonight. He's telling us to get over it. He's all the way over on the West Coast, so he thinks he's safe. But we'll track you down, Tim. We're this East Coast gang. We stick together. Speaking of gangs, we have George tuning in. Hello, gang. Hi, George. How are you? And
Georgie.
What's up, George?
And of course, we have Justin. I have to find a good comment from Justin. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
He was asking what was he asking about Coach K?
The issue with Coach K, yeah.
Oh, Coach K. Yep. He's saying, let's see. Bo, thoughts on Coach K playing his freshman star player, even though he's charged with the DWI and his grandson was charged with DWI. I didn't read that whole story, so you guys will have to be the ones to weigh in here. I did hear a little bit about it, but I don't know all the specifics. I don't know if you want to clue us in, Justin, but
well,
go ahead.
From what I saw, because I saw Coach K's explanation, his grandson and a star player were arrested on DWI. The grandson owns the car. It's his car. He was driving under the influence. The other player was sitting in the passenger side. So he's what's called an accomplice. He wasn't actually driving, but he was still in the car and he might have had alcohol on his breath. The difference between and the reason they justified the star player playing and his grandson sitting, because his grandson has a more serious charge because he was actually driving. The other player was just a passenger. So that was his and the administration's justification for letting the star player play and his grandson sit.
Yeah, it says here he was charged with aiding and abetting DWI, which is a charge given to individuals in North Carolina who knowingly encourage, aid, advise, or instigate another person to drive or attempt to drive while impaired.
Yep. So there you go.
Who was charged with that? The passenger?
The star player.
Yeah, so
Pablo
that's odd.
Banchero.
Yeah, I've never heard of that charge.
And then
Duke's grandson,
Coach K's grandson,
excuse me, was the one
driver.
Driving.
Yep.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So he's getting it. He's getting it from all ends, right? He's embarrassing grandpa. Parents are probably pissed off. He is grounded. And you got students looking at him side eye. So the what he's got to deal with for the next couple of days.
And this all in Coach K's last year. His last season,
year of all seasons, right? You're gonna throw this shade on your grandpa. You can't live this down. Right.
Yeah.
So
that hurts.
Yeah.
And think about how proud he must have been, Coach K, to have his grandson on a team in his last year. So yeah, that's a big change of events. But of course,
life is life. Coach K.
Thankfully nobody got hurt. There are many DWIs where somebody loses a life, and hopefully that this young man's going to learn a lesson and come out better for it. So let's hope that. George is asking a question. I'll throw it to you guys. Did you see the Spartans spend some serious money on their head coach? I did not see that story.
I heard it was about to happen. Ask George, what's the number? What's the number,
yeah, I heard it was 95 million, and I don't think it's happened yet. But I was reading something earlier, and it looks like the number is going to be 95 million from what I saw. Is that right, George?
Didn't we have this conversation last week about
We had the conversation about Jimbo Fisher going to LSU.
Yeah, we had a similar conversation. And that conversation was about $100 million. Why would you turn down $10 million a year? Come on.
And in this case, it's about keeping him. He's a hot commodity, probably one of the top one of the top
He's in the top 10.
potential coaches to go to USC, because I believe there's a link there. So yeah, they're definitely trying to keep him home.
Boosters have been calling their financial advisors, writing big checks. Remember we had this conversation, Joe, last week about where's this money coming from? Every big time school has a booster or two or three with billions of dollars floating around. Hey, they're going to get paid.
Remember, I told you for $10 million, I'd even buy I'd buy my integrity back. So
yeah,
I don't blame them for that. I don't know the judge. George didn't come to us with the number, but yeah, that's crazy. Justin's bringing up a topic that I wanted to talk about. Thoughts on the IOC situation. And George is saying 30 million. I assume 30 million booster minimum. That's a lot. But back to the IOC. I don't know if you saw that the IOC released new guidelines today, a new framework for transgender athletes. They're no longer going to require them to, I don't know if it's binding yet. I don't think it is, but they're not going to require them to do any medically unnecessary hormone treatments to be able to participate. Prior to 2015, apparently, you had to have gender reassignment surgery before you could compete. So I think that's a step forward for transgender athletes. Of course, it's still a controversial ruling, and I don't know if you know this, but 10 states in the country have prohibit transgender athletes from competing, and in 2021, 21 additional states were also considering that measure. So I believe I know the reasoning behind it. If you're having, males who are transitioning to females, and obviously they may be in a position to beat the female athletes, and I think that's where a lot of the controversy falls. But what are your thoughts? I think that when we're talking at the Olympic level, it may be a little bit different. So what do you guys think?
Well, I haven't studied the issue. I don't know enough information, but I mean, I'm all about, diversity and inclusion. That's why I wrote a book. And so I'm going to stay in my lane, so to speak, and talk about football, because that's the only thing I can talk about. Right. I only played one inning of baseball, so that doesn't count. If there is a born female youngster who grows up and wants to try out for the football team and considers herself now a male, I wouldn't have a problem with it. The only thing I would be concerned about is getting hurt. Is that person tough enough? Because most guys aren't tough enough to play football, right? Charles Barkley will be the first to admit he went out, tried out for football. He got hit and he said, "This is not for me." Right. And we know how big Charles is. So if I'm all about anybody can do anything they put their mind to, but I know how hard I tried to hurt people. And I would feel bad if there was a running back coming at me, right, with a football, and I took that person and crushed them, because that was my intent, was to crush everybody with the football. If that person's okay with getting crushed, fine. If that person crushes me, I'm fine. I'm going to get up and dust myself off and say, great. But, I'm just not educated enough to know what's happening in all the other sports, because I really haven't had time to study on it.
Well, I think that's a large part of it when we're talking about high school athletes, that they're trying to prevent injuries. I don't think it's about not being inclusive. I don't think it's about diversity. I think it's about, we're talking about young teenage athletes, and I am assuming even if they're transgender, that they're probably too young to be too. And again, I'm not an expert here either. I don't know the entire process, how long it takes, but I'm sure the adolescent body is much different than an adult body going through that transition. And I think that's really the intent behind it. I don't think that I have to believe that it's not about trying to exclude anybody. I think it's trying to protect athletes, in my opinion.
And I think at that age, we're talking about teenagers. I think at that age, you're trying to protect everybody, not just the person transitioning, but also the privacy, because other things come into play, of the teenage athletes who are not adults and really can't make that decision for themselves as to whether they want to be in that situation, have to deal with that situation. I don't know a better way to put it, but I think there's just a difference between whether you're talking about international Olympic athletes and you're talking about teenagers. They're two different subjects in my book.
Well, Adrian, you said something that just, called me to recall how peer pressure is a major factor in high school and junior high. They call it middle school now. I remember what it was like for me to walk in the locker room for the first time in the 8th grade, for the very first time. Never played Pee Wee football, Pop Warner football, no football, none. And I walk into the locker room for the first time to get my helmet, get my pads, find my locker, get dressed, take off my clothes to put on my jock strap. Think about how uncomfortable that was. And you're in a room of a bunch of males.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Goodness.
So, and that's uncomfortable. So imagine.
Men can be cruel. Young boys can be cruel. And I don't mean all of them, but you're going to have, right? Well, sports is a microcosm of society. You got a crew of guys over here that are trying to be bigger than what they are, talk nastier, talk like adults. Then you got a crew over here who are the nice guys. You got a crew back here that's quiet. The locker room with 60 to 70 guys in it is a multifaceted locker room, multiple personalities, right? Multiple backgrounds. Some guys are hiding pain. Some guys have a great life growing up. They have a mom and dad at home. Everything's good. You got some guys who are living on the street and you don't even know it. So that locker room is a science project. Okay? It is a science project. So
you're right.
I mean, so the things that young man or young lady would have to deal with emotionally and mentally to walk into a locker room based on their situation. But hopefully they'd be a young man or two or three who would step up to the plate and say, hey, listen, this is different than what we were used to last season. Like in football, we were taught police the locker room, right? Police the locker room, because if you don't, the coaches get involved. So hopefully somebody steps up to the plate who's a leader. And a leader doesn't have to be a starter, but a leader amongst the guys, and say, listen, we got a different scenario here. Let's be accepting. Now, would that have happened back in when I was in high school or middle school, junior high? Probably not. But now the kids are smart enough. Now the kids are aware enough, right? Because I know my kid, she was all about protecting people. She got that from me. So, but back then, wow, it would have been difficult. Now, maybe it's not so difficult.
I think it probably is. And I think that, just you're looking at it from the perspective of a male, but teenage girls can be cruel too. On the flip side, if you had
Listen, I got four.
girls
I got four sisters. One of them's on the program. She's watching us.
and I am one of four sisters, so I get it. Especially now. Oftentimes, and my sons are in high school. Teenage girls can be vicious for sure. I can see them ripping a young boy to shreds. Absolutely. And Beverly's agreeing with me too, Joe. You are correct. So yeah, definitely.
I was the middle child, right? I was the middle child, so I'm the one that was trying to break everybody up, right? So, but no, you're right. So just imagine you got peer pressure on the male side. You got peer pressure on the female side. Where does this young person fit in, and how they're going to have to navigate the decision that they make? They're going to need some support, right? And again,
you have the parental pressure also. Don't forget that piece, and that's probably going to be worse than the kids having to deal with it themselves. The kids will probably be a little more forgiving and potentially open to it than probably the parents, the people that are our age who grew up a certain way and are not as open-minded to certain things. We see that every day in politics and everything else that goes on in this country. So that be an added layer.
Well, even if the parents are supportive, you're right. What about the other adults out there walking around on the sidelines who are opinionated? So you're right. They've got it coming from all sides. So it's a difficult, but that's what the IOC gets paid for, right? That's why they're in the position they're in. Their job is to study the issue and make sure that they're making the right decision for that athlete or athletes in that situation. So let's follow it. Let's keep our eyes on it and see how they come out. But
yeah, and I think it's a step in the right direction for adults. I think, because think about it, everybody at the adult level, whether you're male or female in the Olympics, you're at your peak. You're at your peak athletic fitness, and so I think that it's just it's a level playing field. Everybody understands it. Everybody, and you have all of the athletes, and this is controversial in itself. They're all taking some type of substance. We have banned substances, and we have substances that are not banned. Even
right.
There are things that are allowable that still could be considered performance enhancing drugs. So I just think it's an entirely different arena.
Right. There are approved items, products for athletes to take. They've been tested, so forth, whatever. And then there are the ones that are banned. So, yeah, because if you're burning all that energy, you've got to recoup that energy. And so in order to improve your performance, you need some help. The question is that help steroids or is that help vitamins?
Right.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Right. So here's a great story Justin's telling us about. I didn't hear about, but he's bringing it up. I think it's a great story. Did you hear about Erin Jackson becoming the first Black American woman to win the speed skating World Cup in history? I think that's amazing. I hadn't heard about that, but thanks for bringing that up, Justin. I think that's certainly something to celebrate tonight.
I saw a little bit of it. So, go ahead if you know more than I do. I think I saw a little bit of it on like 3:00 in the morning, ESPN. So I had one eye open, one closed. But go ahead.
Yeah, I can't really go in depth on it. I just saw that she had won, and it's groundbreaking, quite honestly. Speed skating, most outdoor winter type sports are not, played or competed by African Americans. So, you look at hockey now, and the number of African Americans, African American Blacks, they're from different countries, all over the place now, have filtered into hockey. And, it's just something that you didn't see when we were growing up. I love hockey, and there are a couple things for me that I've always said, man, if I'd had a chance to play, I would have played, because I love it that much. And I love skating, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great. Someone else is going to see it and say, hey, maybe I can do that. And that's really what you're looking for, right? You're looking for that first person to break in and make that statement and reach that pinnacle and open it up for others.
Yeah. Hockey made a concerted effort. 1990s, early 2000s, they made a concerted effort to try to get more kids, minority kids, involved in hockey. And one of, as far as I know, one of the best owners in hockey was a guy by the name of Ed Snyder, who owned the Flyers. And he did an outstanding job because he built amateur hockey facilities in the region, like 4 or 5 of them. And their main focus in terms of growing hockey was to make sure they focused on getting kids of color involved. So they made a concerted effort, just like baseball is trying to make a concerted effort to get more kids of color back into baseball. So I have a teammate from Villanova who unfortunately had a stroke, having some health issues, but having a conversation with one of my other teammates who lives down in Atlanta with him, I found out that his youngest daughter is a diver. And I'm like, really? You don't see very many divers of color, at least as far as I haven't seen it, right? I know I have a cousin who lives out in California who likes to sail to Hawaii and go cliff diving, but that's not competition. I said out of enjoyment, right? So she's doing something that I never noticed, right? And if you think about swimming, there are more kids of color starting to participate in swimming and in the pool. So I think that negative stereotype that was around for a long period of time is starting to change. So
I think it's something that it really has taken hold in all professional sports. You look at NASCAR, and NASCAR would at one point have probably been the toughest sport to break into. We talked about Bubba Wallace about a month ago and his win at Talladega. But you can look at the number of athletes that have played collegiately, collegiate athletes that are on NASCAR teams, going over the wall, pit crews, things like that. And now it's something it's common. It's very common. Women of color.
Oh, absolutely.
I think everyone in the athletic arena has tried to make a concerted effort to change the look of their sport, and the diversity and inclusion of athletes of color and females and everything. So I think it's a big positive.
Well, listen, I mean, obviously I'm biased in this conversation because I wrote a book about how the power of sports, right? What sports can do and how sports bring people together from different socioeconomic backgrounds, right? And so I even had a brief conversation a couple of weeks ago with one of my teammates who heard I wrote a book, heard what the title was, and was a little thrown back. And we literally had a real brief conversation. And it was no need to have an extended conversation, because I said to him, I can't believe that you didn't read this subtitle, right? It's not just about the title, it's about the subtitle as well. And the subtitle is My Journey of Diversity and Inclusion Through Sports. So that tells you that my book is not a negative book. It's not a grievance book, right? It's not a CRT book, right? It's a positive book about how I was able to build great relationships through sports. And so he was like, oh, and I said, come on, man, this is me you're talking about, right? So he ended up buying the book. And so there are thousands of stories out there about how sports is the vehicle. Whatever analogy you want to use, whatever cliche you want to use or metaphor, sports is absolutely the equalizer. There are tons of stories of how sports has given folks the opportunity and the ability to see who they are, find out who they are, right? And everybody retires, right? Some of us retire after high school. Some of us retire after college, and some get lucky enough to retire after they play pro. But everybody who's played sports in their life had that opportunity to feel what it's like to be part of a team, even if you lose or you win, because it's not about the L's and the W's, right? It's about the relationships you build, right? So sports is a great opportunity. And listen, you guys know this, but I'll break it, right? I'm gonna keep doing my self promotion for those who don't know. The Big East endorsed my book, the Big East Conference. You can now find my book on their suggested reading list on the Big East website. So I'm looking forward to doing some great stuff with the Big East and working with the Big East in the future.
All right, perfect. So Adam Barber saying, can't wait to buy your book. Bo, I know it's going to be great when he reads it. And he's also asking if you're going to do any autograph signings of your book. So that will be something great to work on. And
tell Adam to hit me up on Facebook. Just shoot me a DM message or whatever. We'll communicate, because I want to find out where he lives and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, these are the plans that I have in the future. Because there's lots of people in this country. Do you know there are, on any given year, there's 3.5 upwards to 4.5 student athletes just on the college level playing sports. So imagine how large that number is from all the other sports: hockey, soccer, baseball, football, just all of it. We are a country that do love our sports. And there are some great examples, because coaches are teachers, and hopefully those teachers are good teachers and good coaches, right? And they can instill in us the foundation of sports, and hopefully it sticks.
Adam saying, agree or not, sports is what holds this country together, and in many respects, that's absolutely true. And speaking of promotion, I have a big surprise for you tonight, Bo Dean. I was going to tell you earlier, and I've been working on it all weekend.
What's that?
The Bo and Joe Show now has its own YouTube channel.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah, baby.
So
nice.
Our first 4 episodes are uploaded. It took me forever to learn how to do it, to splice it together, and our intro, our outro, pick out some great music. So that's something to look forward to. I'm going to put it in our Facebook group, but yeah, we got a whole nother medium to share our content on. So we'll have to start doing that. Yeah.
Way to go, Joe. Way to go, Joe.
So that's my big announcement for the night. So
no, that's awesome.
It's 10:46 and we haven't even talked about the NFL yet.
Well, listen, there's so many human interest stories out there. Sometimes the human interest stories are more important. And I think the last one is, I don't know if you guys heard about it, but Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, right? One of her friends in the tennis world, a 35-year-old Chinese doubles tennis player, is missing because, she accused one of her mentors over the years, and this Chinese dignitary She accused him of sexual assault, and all of a sudden she just vanished. She go missing, and then all of a sudden an email was thrown out there, and people are like, that's not her writing. That's not how she talks. That's not how, her cadence is. So in other words, there's a fake email put out there. So this is going to grow to become a big issue. Why is it going to grow? She's a tennis player. You've got a whole bunch of athletes under shoe contracts that come out of China. And if how do you pronounce her name? Naomi Osaka?
Naomi Osaka.
Naomi. If she makes this a big deal and Chris Evert Lloyd and Billie Jean King make it a big deal, this thing is going to blow up.
I hope it does. I actually it's a colleague of mine, Adam, saying he can't believe he didn't hear about this. I didn't hear about it either, but I have a colleague of mine in the podcasting world, and she's a young woman who came here from China when she was 10 with her mother and her young brother, but her father, he continued to travel back and forth. They were Chinese. They continued to travel back and forth to China on business. And one of the trips, he was arrested on a trumped up money laundering charge, and they imprisoned him for life. So this young girl's never going to see her father again, because of course she can't go to China to visit. But yeah, I think it's a much more problematic and widespread than we realize, the abuse of the Chinese government against their own people. So it's really disturbing for sure.
Listen, we live in America. America's tough. It's hard, right? But listen, people need to stop complaining, because until you live somewhere else, please appreciate what's happening and what we have in this country. Like I said,
Absolutely.
It's tough. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy by no means. My family knows it's not easy, but come on. I mean, there are places in this world you can disappear quickly, and
sure.
and no one can do anything about it. They look to us. They look to America to raise awareness when their loved ones go missing.
And unfortunately, even in that case, we're not always successful. And the reality is, she could very well be dead at this point, or being holed up and being victimized by the same person who knows that was already her perpetrator. So it's really just a sad.
All right, let's get into football. Woohoo!
Better get well. Before we do, I do have to. Justin has commented on this 100 times, and so he wants our thoughts on it. Since we were talking about hockey, thoughts on the Boston Red Sox buying the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's not happy about it, but it's the nature of sports. With the people with the money, they typically buy other teams. But
I guess that wouldn't be out of the ordinary for the Red Sox. I know, they are part owner of NASCAR team, Roush Fenway team, that used to be owned by just Jack Roush. So they have dabbled in ownership in other avenues. And quite honestly, I mean, just take a look at the number of professional athletes now that are in positions to own major sports teams. Jeter with the Marlins, Jordan in Charlotte with the Hornets.
Yep.
So it's really something that's becoming pretty common, and I think the Penguins have always been in trouble monetarily in Pittsburgh, and kind of struggling to stay there, even as good as a franchise as it is, and a successful franchise winning Stanley Cups, they've always struggled in Pittsburgh. So, I'm not surprised.
And I don't care. Sorry, Justin. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't give a ham sandwich about Pittsburgh or Boston.
Well, I like Boston.
I'm in Philly. We don't like anything Pittsburgh, and we don't like anything Boston. So sorry, brother. I love you, Justin, but I don't care nothing about those two franchises. So let's talk about football. Who we got tomorrow night? We got what do we got tomorrow night? I got to put my glasses on.
Oh man! Tomorrow night we have the Patriots and the Falcons.
Okay.
That Patriot team that just dismantled the Browns this past weekend.
Oh, listen, Atlanta might try to hang in there, but the Patriots are playing great football.
Yeah,
they are.
They're playing great football. I don't see it. Bill Belichick is in. He's in sixth gear. He's got the quarterback from my hometown, Jacksonville, hometown quarterback. And so he's found his quarterback. They are bowling. So
who's the home team tomorrow night, Adrian?
They're here in Atlanta. They're in Atlanta tomorrow.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think the Patriots are going to win the game. So
yeah, the Falcons have some injuries offensively that really are going to keep them, and with Belichick being who he is, he's got to be the best scheme guy ever to coach football.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how bad they are, who they're playing. He just has the ability to, hold a team down, keep the Patriots in the game. And if the Patriots are clicking offensively, then they'll generally get that win. And they're playing very well offensively now. They've done a great job with Mac Jones, so he doesn't put him in a bad spot.
Listen, they bet Matty Ice. If he wants to continue the season, if I was a head coach, I'd run the ball because Bill Belichick is going to blitz because Atlanta doesn't have their full wide receiver core in terms of their starters.
Nope.
Run the ball, shrink the clock, run the time off the clock by running the ball. Do not throw the ball a lot, and hopefully take it in the fourth quarter and see if you can win it. But if you start slinging that ball around, using Matt Ryan to throw that ball around, it's going to get ugly. So let's move on. Who we got Sunday? It's 1:00 games.
Saints Eagles.
I think we can win that game.
Yeah, I think you can too. And you're at home.
Yeah, we're home.
I'll be honest with you. It looks like. Nah, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to jinx him. I'm not going to say it.
Well, listen, Atlanta, the Saints. They still don't. They have quarterback issues. They've got a few other issues. The Eagles still have something to prove. They're within arm's reach, hoping that Dallas can fall on their face against Kansas City. And then, Dallas is playing the following Thursday on Thanksgiving, which is a short week. So, if the Eagles can get to 4 or 5 wins, right, and Dallas slip up, right. So Dallas is at 7 wins and the Eagles are at 4, right?
Yep.
Let's see what happens. What we got next?
That's not happening, just so you know. The Dolphins at the Jets.
Oh, who cares?
Nobody cares, right?
Nobody cares.
Interesting game. Cam Newton back in Carolina.
That'll be fun.
The Washington football team coming to Carolina this week.
Oh, that's going to be a show. Did you see what he did last weekend?
Yeah.
Joe, did you see the highlights?
Yeah, I saw it.
I mean,
it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, to come in and get 14 points on the board, come on. You can't ask for a better return than that. So, no. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. Go ahead. What's the next one?
Good game. Colts at the Bills. playoff implications there. Colts really need the win. Bills have been struggling a bit. They got the win this week. Didn't start off very well, but ended up. Who did they beat last week?
Who? The Colts?
The Bills, and it was a tough game, but they ended up.
Oh, you got me putting on my glasses. Come on, man.
No, they ended up beating the Jets, but they weren't playing well at the beginning. But then they
crushed the Jets. They beat them 45-3 or something.
They crushed them, and that came mostly in the second half.
Yeah.
No, they did crush them, but big game for the Colts.
Yeah,
at 5-5.
Yeah, and again, if Carson Wentz stays upright and continues to play the way he's playing, if he plays a certain percentage of the snaps, that helps the Eagles get a higher draft pick, if I'm saying that correctly. So we want Carson Wentz to continue to play and do well so we can get a higher draft pick because that was based on the trade. So good.
And quite honestly, it's a big game for the Bills, too, because the Patriots are now nipping at their heels. The Patriots are 6-4. The Bills are 6-3. Obviously, the Patriots haven't had their bye week yet. But this is, Patriots take care of business tomorrow night. And the Colts go ahead and beat Buffalo. The Patriots at the top of the division.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody saw that coming.
No.
Yep.
Justin saw it coming. I'll say that.
I'm sure.
Justin knew. He said that from day one, right, Justin? You said they were going to do it.
Absolutely.
Packers at the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a good game. That's a rivalry game.
That's a great game.
Yep. Because Minnesota is 4-5, Green Bay 8-2. If Minnesota wants to make a splash, they gotta win this game.
Yeah,
this is the second half of the season, right? If you're gonna if you're ready to go to the playoffs, now it's time to do it. Now it's time to make that push.
I think the Packers are gonna do it, but
it's in Minnesota.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but my husband is a huge Minnesota Vikings fan since he's about 5. This whole house is covered in, not all of it, the little areas I allow it, is covered in Vikings and memorabilia, including the room I'm in right now. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of screaming going on around here if the Vikings don't make a move.
So what does he think of his quarterback?
He likes him, but he thinks, the Vikings have struggled so much. There hasn't just been they're so close so many times. There hasn't been really any in his lifetime. There's been no big victories for sure. So I think he gets disillusioned with them every year.
Well, he had fun when Brett Favre came on board and was, slinging the ball. So he had a little bit of a window. It was like a 2-year window when Brett was there slinging it.
Yeah.
That's a tough existence being a Vikings fan. That's kind of like the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
They are the two teams that have multiple Super Bowl appearances, more than 2, and haven't won one. Now maybe the good thing for your husband was, I don't know, maybe he wasn't old enough to see that back in the 70s.
Oh,
he's talking
Fran Tarkenton and the Purple People Eaters. Yeah.
He was old enough.
Okay. Then that's a tough existence.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody wanted to be Fran Tarkenton if you were an offensive player, right? I didn't. I wanted to crush him, but that's okay.
Too funny. What's the Monday night game? The Pats are back on Monday nights? Who's on Monday?
No, the Giants Bucks. Giants Bucks is the Monday night game. And I think we know the premier game of the weekend is Cowboys Chiefs.
Yeah.
4:25 on Sunday.
Yeah.
It looks like it looks like the Chiefs are back, but I think the Raiders defense had a lot to do with what happened this past week. most teams had been playing the Chiefs defensively with cover 2, cover 4, not allowing them to throw balls and get balls in the seams, and the Raiders did not. And the Chiefs really made them pay for it this past week. So it'll be and I don't think Dan Quinn's going to make that mistake this week. I think Edwards-Helaire is supposed to be back this week for the Chiefs in the backfield. If that's the case, that'll be a good help for them. But I still think the Cowboys come out winning this game.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But listen, let's hope my Jacksonville Jaguars,
they're hot, aren't they?
Can sneak up, because remember, San Francisco's flying to Jacksonville. San Francisco just had that big win, so maybe this is a letdown game for the 49ers. Maybe Jacksonville can sneak up on them boys and take it. So,
well, you have to give Jacksonville credit. The last couple weeks they've been competing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously they've won a couple games, but more than just winning a couple games, they've been competing, and they've looked a lot more together than they did at the beginning of the season. They look like they're kind of developing their own identity, so to speak, and understanding where their strengths are and what they want to do. And the 49ers are up and down anyway. So they have a shot.
Listen, the difference between Mac Jones in New England and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville is the organization and the head coach and the coaching staff, right?
So I think it's more about the players around him.
Well, look,
I don't think anybody thinks Mac Jones is better than Trevor Lawrence.
I didn't want to go there, right? I didn't want to blame everybody. But the point is that Mac Jones has a better cast around him,
sure,
than Trevor Lawrence. But if we know that, Urban Meyer, he's not in this to lose. He's in this to win and compete. So let's give our number one quarterback some support, better offensive linemen, get him some playmakers, tight ends, some wide receivers, a strong running back, and then build that defense up. And next thing you know, got a winner we got a winner. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we should have a better week of football this week. Steelers-Chargers Sunday night. That should be a good one. Bengals-Raiders at 4:00. That should be a good one.
Yes.
And there are just certain teams that have to step up and really show who they are. Yeah. I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been such a season of upsets. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen. We could come out on Monday morning and have some surprises. So, that's what I'm expecting. That's the exciting part of it. I think they're doing it just for me because they know I'm back into the game this season and they're trying to keep my interest. So thank you, NFL. Thank you.
Well, these last 2 weeks have been similar. A lot of upsets these last 2 weeks. And last week it started on Thursday immediately with the Dolphins beating the Ravens. I mean, wow. I watched that game. I was like, okay, here we go again. Yep. And it happened.
Yep. Absolutely.
We even had a tie this weekend, which I found to be surprising, right? How often does that happen?
Oh, I'm so happy that Pittsburgh tied. Because that is just terrible. I mean, how can you go out and tie a football game? That is the worst. Right? That is the worst.
To the Lions.
To the Lions. Right.
Yeah.
Right. The Lions look at it looks at it differently than Pittsburgh looks at it. And I think that tie is going to hurt Pittsburgh when it comes down to playoff time. Watch.
It could.
That might hurt Pittsburgh. And then I get to reach out to my one family member in Texas by way of Alabama, Veronica, and rub it in her face because she's a Steelers fan.
Well, you enjoyed that. All right, so it's 11:07. We're 7 minutes past the deadline. How do you want to wrap it up? What's our big game of the week?
Well, listen, Villanova is ranked number 5 in the country for basketball. Basketball season is now in effect. So,
Well,
you know,
well, Justin's telling you, I don't know, it's Bo Nova lost to UCLA.
I know, and it was, and we took them into overtime, and it was in California, in LA. Hey, listen, it was one of those tough games, and again, I think I even said this to you, Ferris. If we lost, we weren't going to drop that far, and we didn't. We went from number 4 to number 5.
UCLA's ranked number 2 and was ranked number 2 in the country.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, if you watch the game, Nova was up 8 with 4 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
And they didn't hit some free throws. I mean, it's UCLA made some big plays.
Right.
Took it to overtime. It was a great game. I mean, you come out of that game knowing that they are 2 of the best. They're 2 of the top 5 teams in the country.
Yeah,
they are.
And you know, basketball is different than football. You can lose a game, especially if you play a tough, high-ranking team, and you're not going to drop that far. So, I mean, hey, Nova football team, I think we're in the top 10 as well in the CAA. So we're having a pretty good year so far.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. All right. So on that note, I guess, of course, I'm going to thank you 2 gentlemen. It's you always make my night interesting. My other guy there on the side, Justin, I couldn't survive without you. You're my main guy. Oh, late entry here. Brandon Herrera. College basketball doesn't start until March.
That is true. March Madness.
Not for some of us, Brandon. Not for some of us. It started last week.
You're just getting in under the wire, Brandon. We're about to wrap things up. But he is the king of coast to coast and the king of my heart. So all these gentlemen, thanks Tim Fielder. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, San. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I know George was here tonight, Adam. So we had a great crowd tonight, and we certainly appreciate it. Oh, Ishmael. I never got to Ishmael's question.
What was his question?
Still on here. College football question for y'all. Did you guys hear Washington coach Jimmy Lake got fired a week after he got suspended for shoving his own player on the sideline?
Yes.
In a sideline outburst. So I meant to get to that. Sorry, Ishmael. You
can't do it. You can't do it. I mean, I remember growing up.
The days of Woody Hayes are over.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And guess what? That game was in the Gator Bowl in my hometown.
Against
Ohio. What was that? Ohio State versus who was it? I forget who it was. But I remember sitting in our den watching that game and watched the coach forearm the player underneath his face mask. You can't do it anymore, right? What did Beverly say?
Beverly's saying she's going to have to share this info about this show with her friends. We hope you do, Beverly. We're hoping to bring a lot more women in and men, of course. But, we're hoping to diversify because we're all about diversity, sports and diversity, of course. So thank you.
Beverly has lots of friends. She's well connected. Yeah, we want lots of women, Bev. So get your friends to tune in. We're all about diversity. We don't talk traditional X's and O's. If you've been listening, we talk about human interest stories and some sports mixed in based on what we think the audience want to hear, because the audience can ask us questions. So we answer those questions. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in. I'm sure my dad's tuning in. He just didn't have an opportunity to learn how to submit his questions. So Pop, I know you're there. And Big Tim, love it. Thanks for checking us out.
And of course, Beverly, thank you. We certainly appreciate it. She said she agrees. It was a diverse conversation, and thank you. That's really what we try to do. So Justin has one last question. Ohio State versus Michigan State. Who do you have winning this weekend? The big game.
It's a big game. That's a big game.
I think it's at Ohio State, right? The games
No,
at
it's at
Ohio
Michigan. No, I
Is it-
think it's at Michigan State.
Hey, put it this way. If Michigan State beats Ohio State, they jump Michigan, and Ohio State drops out of the top 4, and then Michigan State jumps into the top 4. But Ohio State still has to play Michigan as well, right? So
Yep.
that little 3-round robin is going to determine who's going to get in the playoffs. So
So thank you, Sam. The show is great. We love you guys. We love you too. Beverly, I don't know. Bo might kick you off now. So accept Bo. He's a diehard Steeler fan.
Uh-huh.
So Beverly's a Steeler fan, and she's from Arkansas. What is she doing up a Steelers fan? Oh my goodness!
So you're proving Bo wrong. He said he supports everybody, Beverly, but apparently he does not support Steeler fans. So, so we're not as inclusive as we thought. She said, "I know. That's why I waited." She waited to give us. Adrian and I love you, Beverly. So come back next week.
All week, every week.
Yep. Well, listen, we're going to try to make next week's show a little more interesting because it's the night before it's Thanksgiving Eve, right? So
Right.
I plan on having an adult beverage. So those of you who want to bring in Thanksgiving next Wednesday night, I will have my hottie toddy because it's cold up here.
Yes, we have Jerome Green. Thanks for coming in, Jerome. We appreciate it. A great show. God bless.
That's my cousin in Tampa. Hey, they reached
They
out.
represented today.
They represented. You got family all over the place. Oh my
Good stuff.
goodness. DC, Tampa, Jacksonville. Wow. Nice night. So yeah, so guys, seriously, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do something special next Wednesday night, right? Maybe
I'll
have
join you.
have some turkey, some Thanksgiving decorations. Joe, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I have something. I have some props. I have some props that are going to put your props to shame. So I'll have my props. I'll have my props.
I'm going to have to interrupt my Thanksgiving cooking to do this next week.
Hey, listen.
Because I'm the cook. I'm the cook in this house.
All right.
If you interrupted Hawaii, I'm sure you can stop basting for an hour. But I will tell you this month, I don't know. I know Adrian and Bo, you've tuned into my other show, Holistic Health and Hot Mamas. My whole thing for this whole month has been signature cocktails. So I'm going to bring out some of those. I'll have to send you the recipe.
Yes.
One was a great one tonight. I'll send you 2 recipes and see if you want to. We see if we want to sample either one of them. I'm going to sample both.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to be a nice week. Nice next Wednesday night. We got to do it right. It's time of coming together and experiencing good times and positive feelings. And so yeah, let's do it right next Wednesday night.
All right, perfect. And San wants to know if you deliver, Adrian, because she must be having TV dinners. I think you got to go to Bodine's house, San. Don't do that.
Well, listen, Adrian, I do have my second older sister, PJ. She lives in Atlanta, so maybe she can pick up the TV dinner and then ship it to San.
There you go. We'll have a full house. No problem.
And of course,
always have some left over.
And of course, in this month of gratitude, we always want to show our gratitude. Speaking of delicious delicacies, our guy in the back channel, Crispy
Crispy
Bacon.
bacon.
Crispy bacon, baby. Chris, thank you, brother. We appreciate it.
So thanks, everybody. Miss Joe, Cousin Bodine, and Mr. Adrian, have a good night. Beverly, Joe, Bo, and Adrian, good show. Thanks, everybody. And of course, it's only a good show. It's only a good show when we have all the participation on the side. We can't do it without everybody. It makes the time go by quicker and really diversifies our conversation. So thanks, everybody. So, all right, good night, everybody. And Chris, you can play us out.
V's up.
V's up.